This is not the voice of a machine. This is the voice of an African, speaking truth, courage, and dignity. Today, I will tell you a story hidden beneath the surface of global headlines. A story of a river older than nations, a river that binds over 10 countries and feeds millions. This is the story of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a symbol of hope, of change, and of a new Africa refusing to be silenced. Stay with me because what you hear today will challenge everything you think you know about the Nile and Africa's future. The Nile is more than a river. It is the heartbeat of Africa, flowing over 6,600 kilometers through 11 countries, nourishing deserts, forests, farms. For thousands of years, the Nile shaped civilization. Pharaohs rose and fell on its banks. Great cities thrived, and cultures blossomed. The Nile's gift is not just for Egypt or Sudan. It belongs to all Africans who depend on its waters to grow food, generate energy, and sustain life. Over 400 million people live in the Nile Basin, and the river powers economies, creates jobs, and supports agriculture that feeds millions more. Its waters have the power to unite or divide, to build or destroy. Yet for decades, the Nile has been controlled by a handful of colonial treaties favoring downstream countries, especially Egypt and Sudan, while upstream nations like Ethiopia watched silently. Here is the truth seldom told. About 85% of the Nile's waters flow from Ethiopia's highlands. The Blue Nile, the fountainhead of the river's mighty flow. For years, Ethiopia didn't demand its rightful share. It allowed its waters, and even its fertile soil, to nourish Egypt's deserts and sustain its people. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." For decades, Ethiopia bore the injustice of being denied fair use of its own natural resource, a vital part of its sovereignty. Ethiopia was a sleeping giant, a land rich in resources, but powerless over its own river. Then came a moment of awakening, a declaration that Ethiopia would no longer be a silent provider, but a rightful user and guardian of its waters. The GERD is more than just a dam. It is a symbol of Africa's right to self-determination, built with the sweat and sacrifice of millions of Ethiopians, from civil servants giving a month's salary to farmers and students buying bond. The GERD represents the collective will of a people determined to shape their future. When construction began in 2011, it was the largest hydroelectric project in Africa's history, designed to generate over 5,000 megawatts of clean energy, power industries, light homes, and create millions of jobs. The dam promises to transform Ethiopia and the entire Nile Basin region by reducing floods, regulating water flow, and enabling year-round irrigation. The benefits extend beyond Ethiopia. Sudan gains protection from destruction floods and can better manage its own dams. Kenya Uganda, and other neighbors stand to benefit from regional power grids connected to the GERD's energy. Africa as a whole moves closer to energy independence, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and foreign aid. Yet, despite the promise, Egypt sees the GERD as a threat, not just to water supplies, but to its centuries-old dominance over the Nile. Egypt fears losing the monopoly granted by colonial treaties it never renegotiated with upstream neighbors. The dam threatens to shift the balance of power upstream, giving Ethiopia and other Nile nations leverage they have long been denied. For Cairo, this is about much more than water. It is about influence, politics, and survival. And behind the scenes, the United States, a key ally of Egypt, has made clear its unease with Ethiopia's growing independence. The infamous 2020 statement by President Trump calling for the dam to be blown up was no empty threat. It revealed the lengths some powers would go to maintain control. But Africa stands at a crossroads. Will we continue to accept colonial era rules that divide us? Or will we embrace a new future where every nation has the right to harness its resources fairly and peacefully? The GERD is a taste for Ethiopia, for Egypt, and for the entire continent. It is a taste of cooperation, trust, and the willingness to see beyond old fears toward shared progress. Because the Nile belongs to all of us, not just those downstream who historically claimed control. The waters of the Nile have shaped Africa for millennia. Now they call us to shape the future, to break free from chains of injustice and build a continent that controls its destiny. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is more than infrastructure. It is a beacon of hope, sovereignty, and unity. The question is this: will Africa rise together and claim its future, or will fear and division drown the dreams of millions? The Nile is watching, and so is history. I am African. I am not AI. I am not paid to say this. I am the voice of truth, dignity, and hope. Share this story. Let it reach every village, every city, every shore the Nile touches. Subscribe and hit the bell so we can continue telling Africa's stories, the stories the world tries to silence. Together we stand, together we rise. One Africa vision. God bless Africa and its people. Bye bye.